Authorities have stopped the leak of oil and natural gas from a well off the shore of Garden Island Bay, southeast of New Orleans. The spill was first reported on April 26th. Since then, more than 70,000 gallons of oily water have been recovered, but the full amount of discharge from the well remains unknown. Impact to wildlife so far appears to be minimal. Cleanup efforts continue, though a cause of the leak is yet to be determined. The well is maintained by Spectrum Opco, which purchased the closed well last year. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Republicans in the House and Senate continuing to debate a bill containing many of the president's campaign priorities ahead of a self-imposed deadline to pass the bill. South Dakota Senator Mike Rounds says he remains confident he and his colleagues will come to an agreement at some point.
You got to have 51 votes in the Senate, and you got to have 218 in the House. How we get there? Well, that's what we're working through now. Our goal, though, is to get that part done. Whatever else we can get done, anything else is a bonus.
New York Attorney General Letitia James said Saturday she plans to team up with other lefty AGs nationwide to sue the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services over health care funding cuts.
Why? Because they want to cut funds for housing. And the list goes on and on and on. All of these funds and more, we've got to stand up. And that's why Democratic attorneys general will be joining me in filing this lawsuit.
But former Kentucky Attorney General and Senate candidate Daniel Cameron says this is a classic move by Democrats. James knows she is in hot water and being investigated for mortgage fraud, so she's trying to create a diversion.
This is patently absurd, what Letitia James is doing in New York related to this potential lawsuit. To your point, these are proposed cuts. They haven't even been set in stone. So the fact that she is doing this just shows how desperate she is and trying to distract from her own legal woes that she has right now. And look, this is not uncommon. This is what the Democratic AGs do. Democrats are out of power in Washington, D.C., so they resort to these frivolous lawsuits.
A pro-life activist thinks the church can play a role in abortion pill reversal. Chris Woodward has more.
Abortion pill reversal may sound like science fiction to some listeners, but Joseph Parker of American Family Association says it is very real.
It's been out a long time, and it's helped to save a lot of babies.
As explained by Live Action, the mechanism of abortion pill reversal is essentially the same mechanism often used to prevent miscarriage, the hormone progesterone. Only in this case, it's aimed at reversing the effects of the abortion pill regimen. If a woman decides after taking the first of the 2 drugs in the regimen that she doesn't want to go through with the abortion process, she may be able to try abortion pill reversal. The window in which a woman can change her mind and try the abortion pill reversal is limited to around 72 hours after she's taking the abortion pill. That, says Parker, is how the church can be more involved.
Educating ourselves is very important because if a young woman comes to, say, a grandmom in the church and she doesn't know anything about abortion pill reversal, she may say, well, I'm sorry, baby, there's nothing I can do. But if she knows about it and simply can share the hotline with this young lady, the Lord could use this young grandmom to possibly save that and maybe other babies as well.
The hotline is 1-877-558-0333. Information can also be found on abortionpillreversal.com. I'm Chris Woodward.
Russia is extending an olive branch towards Ukraine as they hold a day commemorating their victory in World War II. Ashley Strohmeyer has more.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is declaring a unilateral 3-day ceasefire in Ukraine starting this Thursday. Ukrainian officials are demanding the Kremlin leader accept a longer 30-day truce proposal from the U.S. It's so far been rejected. This as Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to pay an official visit to Russia this week to attend their Victory Day parade in Moscow. He's also reportedly planning to sign a bilateral document.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
In order to become godly men, young boys need to be shown what it takes. That's why Men of Honor exists. It's a privilege to teach boys age 7 to 17 the necessary life skills they'll use the rest of their lives. From 5:30 to 7:30 every Tuesday night from June 3rd to the 24th at the AFA campus, they'll learn basic craftsmanship, yard maintenance, and much more. It's free, and that even includes the food. Find out more about Men of Honor today at afa.net/events.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman. president of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues here on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues, the name of this show, Monday, May the 5th, 2025. And joining me in studio is Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Hey, good morning, Tim.
And Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
Chris donning the plaid.
Yes. I try to wear the opposite of Jordahl, so that way you get a mix of fabrics.
I would start calling you Chris Plaid
Yeah.
Woodward.
Starting tomorrow, Steve's all Paisley, so we're Plaid and Paisley. That's kind of hard to say.
Plaid and Paisley.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not easy to say.
Plaid
Right.
and Paisley.
Plaid and Paisley.
Plaid and Paisley.
We're a tag team. Yeah, and then Wednesday we're going to become a professional wrestler.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner, Plaid and Paisley.
Steve's like a foot taller than me.
All right.
But he can toss you. He can throw you at the other guy.
That's the shtick. It's a surprise. It's shock and awe.
You can remember Mutt and Jeff, right?
Yes.
Because it's
Mutt
Plaid and
Jeff,
Paisley.
I hadn't heard that. That was a comic strip.
Wasn't it a comic strip back in the wind?
I think it was probably like in the 40s. And I know when I was in high school, and I don't know you remember doing this, laying on the floor reading the Sunday comics.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we weren't Christian growing up, so we didn't go to church on Sunday. So I can remember laying Sunday morning, laying
Mutt
on
and Jeff?
Mutt and Jeff among others.
Wasn't one of them tall, one of them short or something? Yeah, that was all right.
I'm usually the short one.
Back in the day, as they say, the Mutt and Jeff comic strip. That'd be a good trivia question.
That is good idea.
About Mutt and Jeff. All right, so we hope everybody had a nice weekend, and we've got a lot to talk about. In fact, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have a guest who has, get ready for this, she is from our area here in Northeast Mississippi, and she has handwritten the entire Bible.
Handwritten?
Yes. I just learned of this last week. We were discussing this with, do you remember the context of what we were discussing?
Well, I don't remember the context, but it was a day that Wesley was on the show and Ray Pritchard, and Wesley talked about having written the gospel according to John.
Right.
And Galatians, I think it was, and Ray mentioned he's done some similar things.
Yeah, so then I was talking to one of our staff members, and they said, hey, my mother-in-law has written the whole Bible. And I said, what? And I said, would she be willing to do a radio interview with us about this? Because I just find that fascinating. I've never, ever met anybody that's handwritten the entire Bible. And so Marguerite Robison is going to be on with us, and she'll be joining us at 10:30. Have you ever talked to anybody or knew anybody that handwrote the whole Bible?
No. My goodness, that would be a monumental undertaking.
Jerome
well,
did.
He translated
That's
it
been
into
a while
Latin.
ago.
Yes. Translated it into Latin. So this wasn't a translation, obviously. She just hand copied it, and we'll
No,
talk
she
more
translated it into Southern English.
Well, then the number of questions I have for her have grown.
Y'all need to repent. Get right with Jesus.
Chris is on to it right there. That's the audio version.
Y'all don't come
Chris
down
just had.
right now. Devil's got you. God's through with you. Ain't kidding you.
Heaven, you want to go to heaven? It is
we better stop before we get
better than a breakfast with biscuits and gravy.
Guys, we better stop right there.
Okay.
But it's funny.
Yeah. No.
You tinker
There's a
on.
time to laugh.
Yeah.
Anyway. At least I didn't send out a tweet with me pictured as the Pope.
Who would do that? That's crazy. Wait.
This just in.
Oh,
all right. Sorry.
All right. So all right.
distracted.
Listen. So we have we've called this good Trump, bad Trump, right? Trump, President Trump, he does things that no other president has ever done,
right.
And oftentimes that is a good thing,
right?
And sometimes it's
Puzzling. Let's just say puzzling.
Puzzling, and you scratch your head. He and the White House sent out a meme. Do you call that a meme?
Yes.
It
was an meme. It was an image, at least.
Was it Friday or Saturday? When was this?
It was over the weekend.
Okay, and it had President Trump's face imposed around as the Pope.
Correct.
Because the Catholic Church will be selecting a new pope after the death of Pope Francis.
And a lot of people thought that was disrespectful, including you.
Yeah, no, I think that was disrespectful.
Yeah.
And no, listen, folks, don't email me. I won't read it if you do. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's you don't mess with people's faith in a disrespectful manner. I'll say, especially in the Christian faith. So, however, I understand that sometimes you think something's a good idea, and it seems funny at the time, and somebody sends it out, and then later on you go, oh, maybe I shouldn't have. Listen, that's why I run things past my wife. If I have any question at all, do you think this is a good idea? And she'll go, no.
Funny in the house.
Yes.
Between two people, but it's not funny for public consumption.
That's
right.
Exactly right.
Yeah, a lot of, especially Catholics, were bothered by that. I was reading that. Anyway, that's. Any other president ever done anything like that you can remember?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, I mean, we have technology now that allows you to put your face,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I don't ever remember JFK sending out something at him as an imam.
Oh, no.
Can't say I remember that either.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway.
I will say that Trump's, which the White House did say it was a joke. He's not the only person in office to do something similar in recent days. For example, Senator Mike Lee, who, as I understand it, is a Latter-day Saint or Mormon, because Marco Rubio currently holds like 6 jobs in the Trump administration,
yes.
And he therefore wears many hats. Mike Lee put out an AI-generated image of Marco Rubio as the Pope and said he does wear many hats, and it was a picture of Marco as the Pope. So Trump's not the only one to have done it, but Mike Lee's not the president of the United States.
No, I'm not saying it's not blasphemous. If he had put his face on Jesus, I'm talking about President Trump, that's blasphemous. This is disrespectful to Catholics, and Catholics let the White House hear it, and so
Bad Trump.
Yep, good Trump, bad Trump. I will say this: just like there's good Ed, bad Ed.
That's what I'm saying. So
yeah.
you would say this shouldn't have done that.
No, I shouldn't have done it.
All right, next story.
Bad idea.
All right,
Chris Plaid, Woodward.
All right. So while Democrats continue to make Kilmar Albrego Garcia into this wrongly deported Maryland father, a number of news outlets, which now includes USA Today, have done stories on how Kilmar Albrego Garcia is not a good person, and therefore the Trump administration was in the right for deporting him, right or wrong, without due process. And speaking of due process, we'll perhaps get into that later in this hour. But I've got some audio now, and this was obtained by USA Today, which is not a conservative news outlet by any stretch. But USA Today, of all news outlets, had audio on Friday of Garcia's wife in 2020 talking to a judge. She went to a judge to request protection from her husband based on alleged abuse that was going on at home. Don't take my word for it. Clip 1.
He grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me, and then the neighbor, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to react. I have pictures of the evidence, all the bruises, because even on Wednesday, he hit me around 3 in the morning. He would just wake up and hit me. And then last Saturday for my daughter's birthday party, before I went to my daughter's birthday party, he slapped me 3 times. And then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
Now, to go with this, on Friday, there were also news reports which included video evidence of what appeared to be Garcia behind the wheel of a vehicle that police say may have been used in human trafficking. So the Trump administration and some news outlets are saying this is not a good man, and Democrats look foolish for going to bat for him as much as they are.
Well, and they were all in, and this is the problem. My mom would have said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. and you don't want to. And the Democrats put all their eggs in the Abrego Garcia basket. And now, if this guy turns out to be bad news on a number of different fronts, starting with what appears to be a consistent pattern of, let me just say, just for safety, alleged domestic violence. Okay, starting with that, then the Democrats are going to be they're going to have more trouble in terms of the way the American voters look at that party. Now, let me just ask you this. Has the government produced sufficient evidence to demonstrate that Garcia is a member of MS-13?
The government claims that he is and therefore should have been deported, while courts and judges have said he was wrongly deported or it was a mistake. Now, early on, the administration did kind of acknowledge that perhaps it was wrong to deport him. But now, in recent days, especially as more and more stories go by, I mean, hardly a day goes by without hearing about him doing something wrong.
Because, President Trump in the interview talked about the tattoos on his knuckles.
Yes.
And saying that the images there are known to stand for MS-13. Like there's a marijuana plant that stands for M. There was the S. I forget what the S was, and so then there was 1 and a 13. That these images stand for MS-13, although it doesn't explicitly have the letters and numbers MS-13. But the public has not seen the government's proof, or has it?
It has not.
Okay.
And some people in the public think that the whole tattoos thing is a, quote, conspiracy. Forbes, for example, did a story on what it called the conspiracy behind Garcia's tattoos. So even that's being debated.
Well, anyway, so at the very least, we have Garcia's wife, and we have audio claiming domestic violence.
Yes. Which is one of several instances, because the audio I just played is one situation of a few news reports claiming that he abused her at different times.
And so we also don't have proof yet of the human trafficking. I'm not defending the guy. I'm just saying what we know right now.
Yeah, it's
Democratic
being alleged,
Party,
reportedly, police say kind of stuff.
But the Democratic Party has kind of gone all in to defend this guy, and as a result of that, criticize the Trump policy.
Right.
I think that the Democrat Party, too, they want trials for all these people and lawyers. They want to lawyer up for thousands and thousands of people.
Billions.
And, yeah, Trump was talking about that the other day. And you're talking about going an impossibility. You just can't.
Yeah.
Again, remember, these are non-citizens.
Right.
So, I mean, when you enter into a country and you're there without citizenship, you're there illegally, and you know you are, sometimes you don't have a lot of claims.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That people are going to listen to.
Right.
So, anyway.
President Trump was on Meet the Press over the weekend to talk about issues like Garcia and the Constitution and due process. And some people are taking exception to his answers here. I've got some audio from the president himself, clip 7.
A big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including
That's all right.
3 on the Supreme Court.
They change. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do change.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
Now, Democrats were quick on Sunday to pounce on the I don't know if I have to uphold the Constitution, because the oath of office itself swears to uphold the Constitution. I think he's still kind of answering her previous question there.
Yeah, that's a lame attack on the president. It's clear what he was saying. And look, here's the thing. You're in an interview situation. The interviewer's interrupting you, and there's back and forth. Sometimes you don't get a chance to finish your thought. I think the president is clearly saying that he doesn't know how much of the due process protections of the Constitution, which protect U.S. citizens, how much of those due process protections exist for people who are here illegally or who have committed crimes and need to be deported? And it's unfair of the Democrats. What do you expect? They've got really nothing of their own except to sit back and take pot shots at the president. So,
well, we wouldn't have as much of a problem if Biden not let millions of these people pour into our country. Right. And what about that?
Yeah.
What about that due process?
Yes. Yeah.
The American public never got any due process when he let 10, 11, 12 million people?
Yeah, nobody's quite sure of the exact number.
And many of them gang members and cartel and
sex traffickers, abusers of children. I mean, this. I don't know why the Democratic Party is taking its stand on this issue.
Right.
I think they would have been smarter to go after maybe the tariff policy, where at least people are nervous about it.
Right.
But I don't think the American people are ambivalent about the issue of
save gang members.
Yes, that's ridiculous for the Democratic Party, but they're all in.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, media has done its best. Mainstream media has done its best to try to help Democrats out here. But people like Fox News legal editor Greg Jarrett say the problem with the media is that it itself does not understand things like due process. Clip 8.
Yeah, deportations are not a criminal process under the meaning of the Bill of Rights and the Fifth Amendment guarantees of due process. That's the point that I think Trump's lawyers had made to him. Removal is based on people who are here illegally, not because they're charged or convicted of crimes. And the U.S. Supreme Court recently ruled that they are entitled to notice and a right to challenge removal, but that is typically done on an expedited basis before an immigration judge who is not part of the judicial branch. They're employees of the Department of Justice, so that's not the same as the standard due process that people are entitled to in regular courts of law when charged with crimes. That's the point the president was trying to make. So the term due process here really gets conflated and confused. It's not the same thing.
I just think that when they are going and ICE is going and scooping up all these people, and it hasn't even been close to the millions that came in. That's what Tim was mentioning. But that expedited due process, if it exists, and the Supreme Court has said they have a right to at least be questioned, the questions should be, who are you? Where did you come from? Did you enter the country illegally? Can you produce a visa? And if they say no, you say, okay, you're going home. Gavel, next person. I mean,
where did you come from?
Yeah, where did you come from?
Cotton Eye Joe.
What's that?
Cotton Eye Jose.
Cotton Eye Joe. Yeah, I get it. Okay, I get that. That's Cotton Eye Jose. Yeah, I like that.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? You know what? President Trump is not a constitutional lawyer, and he's answering the question like plain folks do.
Yes.
And he went on to say there that people elected me to get the bad guys the blank out of the country.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
We did get that out.
And he was right about that. And so he's not so concerned about, the minutia of it.
Right.
He Biden let all these people in, and he wants to get them all out.
Yes.
Basically, that's
and the American people want them out.
Right. They voted for this.
They don't want them abused.
No.
Beaten on the way out or anything. But they got to go back where they came from.
Right. So you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. That's the name of this show. Coming up in a few minutes, we're going to talk to a woman, Marguerite Robison, who has handwritten the entire Bible. You're right. And so if you want to feel bad about your Christianity, you just stay tuned.
Yeah, what did you do yesterday?
You know what? You're a loser. And no, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding.
She was just doing this for her own edification.
That's right. And all right, go ahead.
But that is, I will say, that is funny.
Yeah.
When someone does something tremendous like that, you immediately take stock of your own life.
Right,
You just go,
what have you done? Even
have I-
comparable.
Yes.
Huh? Go ahead.
One more Trump story. And this is one of those things where it sounds like, sometimes now in the news cycle, you hear a story and it sounds like a Babylon Bee story, but it turns out to be legit.
Right.
In this particular case, we have it on our website. I just posted it on our Today's Issues Facebook page. President Trump says he is directing his government to reopen and expand Alcatraz, the notorious former prison on a California island in the San Francisco area. We have some audio of President Trump talking about this. It is clip 10.
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz. It's a symbol of law and order.
Now, it may be a symbol of law and order, but Alcatraz, to my knowledge, closed in the 1960s. So it's probably not up to
museum.
Right.
I mean, it's literally, you can go visit it.
Yeah, it's a tourist destination.
Yeah.
You have a guide, and 10 of you walk around with the earphones in, listening to the guide talk about the different. So that
people who were
Al Capone slept here.
Al Capone did.
There was a couple of great movies.
Yeah.
Escape from Alcatraz, wasn't that Clint Eastwood?
That was Clint Eastwood, and then Birdman of Alcatraz was Burt Lancaster. Dr. Ray Rooney corrected me this morning in our meeting. I thought that Clint Eastwood was in Birdman of Alcatraz, but he was in Escape from Alcatraz.
What are you going to say?
I was going to say Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage saved the day in the 1990s from nuclear attack or something when they snuck into Alcatraz and prevented Ed Harris from harming everybody. That's from The Rock.
I missed that.
That was from The Rock in 1994.
The Rock came along later.
No, not the actor.
Name of the movie.
The Rock, as Connery would say.
Now, by the way, folks, we're not recommending any of these movies. We're just
I
have no idea.
I saw it before I knew Jesus as my Lord and Savior.
All right.
So I don't know. We can't vouch for the movies.
We're
Maybe
just saying
a bunch of profanity for all we know.
They were centered on Alcatraz, which has become kind of iconic in the American mind.
I mean,
so President Trump there is saying, well, but you got to be careful when Trump says this to preface his remarks. Quote, it's just an idea I had.
Right.
End of quote. because he has a lot of them. Most of them good, some of them nutty. Okay?
I'm looking at a picture of Alcatraz on this. It's a little island, like a rock. That's why they called it the Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a mile offshore near San Francisco. You'd have to probably do a lot of renovation because it's not built. It was built back in the 40s or 30s or something, and the reason they shuttered it is because it became more expensive to operate it than to just have a prison on the mainland, because everything's got to be shipped out there in boats.
Yes, and according to the internet, it holds up to 312 prisoners. So
the best escape from prison movie I ever saw was Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
That is, Morgan Freeman, and what was the other actor's name? Robin?
Was it Timothy Robbins?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's the kind of movie that makes you think, if you were wondering whether you should do something that could land you in prison, you go, no, I think I
don't think it was Timothy Robbins. I think it was, I may have, some people yelling at the radio right now. Shawshank Redemption. May have been Timothy Robbins. Let's see. Yes, it was. We were correct.
We were?
Yeah, we were. When you're correct, you say we.
Okay.
If you're incorrect, I would have said you were incorrect, Ed.
You're wrong.
We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
There once lived a man who thought of himself as a pretty good fella. He didn't drink too much, run around too much, hate his brother too much, steal too much, lie too much, or do anything else too much. He did all of these things in moderation. You see, it was his theory that everything was all right in the proper dosage. One day this man died. After a period of sleep, the man awoke. He found that he was in a strange place, but it seemed to be such a nice place. Ah, he said to himself, so this is what it's like here. Real nice indeed. Looking around, he saw that everything was so beautiful. He noticed that he was resting in a most comfortable bed, and that others were doing the same. Looking to the side of the bed, he noticed a man standing there who was dressed in a uniform. He asked the man who he was. "I am your servant," the man replied. "Whatever you want, it is my job to supply it." "Man, that's great," exclaimed the man who had died. "Hey, this is real living. Say, servant, how about bringing me a little bottle of booze? Don't bring me a big bottle, just a little one. I don't like to get tight, you know, just feeling good." Well, in a flash of time, the servant handed the man his bottle of booze. "Say, servant," added the man after getting the booze, "how about bringing me a dame to go with the bottle? I never like to drink alone." In an instant, his wish was fulfilled. When he asked for some soft music in the background, his wish was immediately granted, and the air was filled with beautiful music. Well, it continued like this for the man day after day, day after day. When he ordered to smoke, he had no more than gotten the order out of his mouth until it was fulfilled. When he ordered something to eat or drink or wear, it was instantly provided. Whatever his wish, it was fulfilled immediately. After about a week of living in his new environment, one day the man made a startling discovery. And after making his discovery, he made this statement: "Man, this is heaven. Real heaven. Just think, everything I ever wanted. And I did pretty well what I wanted to do on earth. I pity those poor, stupid fools who think they have to live like a preacher or something in order to get here. They're missing it on earth. They could really live it up on earth if they only knew that they could still get here anyway." So on and on went the pleasure of the man who died. Day after day, week after week, month after month. After living like this for several months, he became disgusted. Soon he became completely disgusted when all of his wishes were fulfilled and none refused. He begged the servant to refuse a wish, but the servant would not. Finally, he turned to another man who had died and remarked, "You know, if I had known it was going to be like this here, I would have rather gone to hell." The other man responded, "And where do you think you are?" Heaven, you see, isn't getting everything we want.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Have no fear of them, nor be troubled, but in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect, having a good conscience, so that when you are slandered, those who revile your good behavior in Christ may be put to shame. 1 Peter 3:14 through 16.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. It's, let's see, today's May the 5th. Thank you for joining us on the program, Tim, Ed, and Chris. Well, I mentioned before the break we were going to talk to a guest in studio and who has handwritten the entire Holy Bible. And joining us is Marguerite Robison. And Marguerite, welcome to our program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Is this the first national radio interview you've ever done?
It is.
Well, you're doing wonderfully so far.
Yeah. You haven't embarrassed your family there so far. That's doing great. Now, Marguerite, you live what 20 minutes from us here at the studios, right?
Right.
I learned last week. Here's how this happened. Where we invited Marguerite to come on. We were doing one of this show, and I think Ray Pritchard and Wesley Wildman, one of my sons, were talking, and something came up about handwriting the scriptures, and Wesley mentioned that he had handwritten two the books of the Bible.
Yeah, the Gospel of John and the book of Galatians.
Yes. And after the show, I got a text from one of our staff here who said, hey, my mother-in-law has written the entire scripture. And I said, well, will she be willing to come on and do an interview with us? Because I've never met anybody.
Right, me either.
And Marguerite said, yes, she would. So here we are. Tell us how, first of all, let me see your hand. Is it crippled? No, your hands are working perfectly fine. The reason I'm joking around because that much handwriting would cramp a hand for life, you would think. But all right, so how did this come about? Tell us.
Well, I decided to write it in July of 2021. I'm an early riser. I always enjoyed reading the newspaper first thing of the morning.
Right.
But there was articles in the paper that I was disappointed in.
Right.
I canceled my subscription. So actually, to be honest, I needed something to do early in the morning, and I thought, this will surely help. I had heard Dr. David Jeremiah say everyone should copy the book of Romans. I did that. I continued on each book of the New Testament. I said, well, let's start in Genesis and see how far I get.
Yeah.
So they started with the book of Romans. It's suggested by David Jeremiah.
Right.
How long did that take you to? And you've got it right here. You brought it to the studio, right?
Part of it.
Part of it. Okay. Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to write the Romans, book of Romans? Do you remember?
I don't remember precisely.
Okay.
But
okay. Well, then let me ask you this. I guess it's kind of hard to say hours because you did it in days, right? But how long in days did it take you? And did you write most every day?
I missed 3 days in 3.5 years, and I was out of town.
I'm disappointed that you missed your 3 days. I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. But anyway, go. So
you have to understand, most of what he's saying is tongue in cheek.
I warned her.
You did. You warned her. Okay.
I warned her before the show. So 3 days you missed in 3.5 years.
Correct.
So, but it took you 3.5 years.
Yes, writing 45 minutes to an hour a day, something like that.
With a pencil or pen?
Pen.
Okay, a pen in a just a regular notepad. 8.5 by 11 notepad.
This is discarded notebooks that my grandson had discarded, partially used.
Yeah.
Had I known I was going to finish this, I would have written it in a pretty journal.
Yeah.
But they're all colors, partly used.
Did you? Are you gonna? You need to make copies of? Have you made copies of this?
No, I haven't.
Well, you need to because you need to preserve the
hand copy.
Yeah, you need to hand copy your hand copy. That's what I would. Even if it takes you 5 more years. No, and I think what I'm saying is I can put it in a copy machine. I'll do it for you because that needs to be preserved. If you spill coffee on that, for example, or something like that. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I was just going to ask, how difficult was it? Obviously, you did these chapters and books that I'm about to ask about because you did the whole Bible. But how hard was it going through some of those passages where there's all the names in Hebrew or the Hebrew names, I should say, and those are hard just to read them, let alone to diligently copy those. How hard was that to do those kinds of sections?
It was very challenging. There was times I would think, why are you doing this? Just quit. But I said, no, I will continue on. I did cheat a little on numbers when it was written out 10,000.
Yeah.
I used numerals,
Oh, okay. I see.
but I continued on.
If you made mistakes, did you just correct them? Or you didn't maintain that if you made a mistake, you had to start all over in a particular book.
No.
You just cross through it and write the right thing.
We're talking to Marguerite Robison. She lives here in the Tupelo area, and I found out she's a mother-in-law of one of our staff here, and I thought, well, wow. She wrote the entire Bible out longhand, and it took her 3.5 years, she says, and I said, we got to talk to her.
Right.
So we invited her into the studio, and she agreed to be on. Go ahead.
I will say this. When I pastored for a long time, and when I would prepare my sermons, I would handwrite the passage that I was preaching out of. And sometimes I would think, well, why are you doing this? But there was something about writing it out. As I'm writing it, I'm praying and asking the Lord to give me insight into this passage. So what was your motivation, other than the fact that David Jeremiah said it would be good to do this in the book of Romans? Was this just an exercise of worship, or did you pray as you read? Were you just trying to go through the entire Bible like some people will read it, but in a way that forces you to pay attention? Why were you doing this?
As I mentioned earlier, to be honest, I was wanting to fill up some morning time, but I felt like the Bible would be the place to spend it.
Yeah.
And as you said, writing the scripture out, I understand the context much more than just reading. I've read through the Bible years ago, read through it entirely.
Yeah.
And I've memorized scripture through the years. But there's something about writing this scripture that it stays with you. It's been a blessing.
You pay attention a little bit more.
Oh, yes.
If you read over passages that you've read before, sometimes our minds do funny things, and we can be reading the scripture and our mind can actually be on something else, but not if you're writing it.
Right.
If you're handwriting it, you're paying attention to everything you're writing, and there is something to that. I mean, I agree with what Dr. Jeremiah said, and then what you did was, and that's a phenomenal undertaking in completing the task.
I enjoyed it. I look forward to that every morning.
Yeah.
And when I finished, it was emotional. I didn't want it to end.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Give me two, if you can. What are two of your favorite Old Testament Bible stories as you wrote along and you said, wow, I really like writing about this?
Well, I always like Daniel, the story of Daniel.
Yes.
Of course, Noah.
Yeah.
And the ark.
Yeah.
Among so many others.
Yeah. Those two, those are good. That's a good one. The other thing I had is a practical question. We joked about this earlier, but I know if I handwrite for 15 minutes, which I rarely do anymore. I mean, well, I can't remember the last time I did. I'll handwrite for 5, or maybe 10. Handwriting for how many hours a day? An hour?
No more than an hour.
An hour. But how did you ever get finger cramps or?
Sometime.
Yeah.
But, I have arthritis, but the Lord just kept giving me the strength in that hand.
Did you write in cursive or in print?
Oh, cursive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Writing in print, that would make you lose your religion.
Yeah.
Okay. Not.
Yeah. I still write in cursive. These guys have made fun of me for my note writing.
Well, it's not the only thing we make fun of.
Yeah.
But that's one of them. Yeah.
Well, listen, Marguerite. So you did an interview recently with the a Baptist
Southern Baptist. Yes.
For the state
Baptist Record.
That's the Baptist magazine for the state of Mississippi.
Right.
Right. And you're doing some stuff with us here at American Family Association, American Family Radio. Well, listen, anything else you want to say or add to our conversation?
I would suggest that people that have time on their hands,
yes,
elderly people like me, it's a great thing. You receive a great blessing from it. You're going to learn whether you intend to or not.
Mm.
Amen.
And people can start small. They can do the book of Ephesians.
True.
Or they can,
True.
They can.
Jude.
Yeah, Jude. Yeah, that would you'd save some paper there. But well,
Right.
would you mind if you don't want to, you don't have to. Do you Would you like to share how old you are?
I'm 89.
89.
Right.
So you did this. When did you start? You were 85?
85.
85. So
that was back in the day.
That was back in the day.
Yeah.
So the point is, when you reach your 80s, for example, your life's not over. There are still things you can do, and you still can learn.
Sure is.
Yeah.
I had no idea when I started to write this that it would become known to anyone.
Yeah.
It would not have been had it not been for my daughter.
Yeah.
Well,
but if it will help someone else,
Amen.
encourage someone else.
Well, I'll tell you, I got to say, and this is the way Italians think. I'm Italian. Your friends have nothing on you. You hang out with your friends, and they say, "Well, I went and did this, and I went and did that." You could say, "Yeah, but you never copied the Bible, did you?"
Yeah, I think that's where you
trump
lose.
card.
I think that's where you lose your reward in heaven. I think that's the scripture about that you wrote about.
That's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's so. Anyway, Marguerite, thanks for doing this interview. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay.
And you are still mentally sharp. 89 years old.
Well,
very, very articulate most days, right?
Most days.
Yeah. Thank you, Marguerite. All right, that's Marguerite Robison, our guest today in studio. So you asked her how old she was.
Well, I told her if you don't want to say, you don't have to.
That's okay.
But that's part of
that's all right.
That's part
right.
of the amazing thing about this.
89.
89 years old. She started when she was 85. Listen, I'm.
You can start today, Ed.
I'm 66.
And finish by the time you're 89.
I get tired, by noon. Now I am excited.
So have you ever written out any? What you said? You just wrote out Bible verses for your sermon?
Yeah, well, from my sermons.
That is a good idea if you're going to preach a sermon on text to write it out.
Over the years, I did like my own personal commentary on Ephesians and a couple other books in the New Testament where I would write out the scriptures and then, comment underneath it just in case I ever wanted to preach on that passage. But nothing like what Marguerite did.
Did you ever, while you were preaching, I don't know what I wrote there, have trouble reading your own writing?
No, I can read my writing, but I will say this. My sermons I would circle a word and draw an arrow over here, so they were not laid out very well for anyone other than me.
Yeah.
I
do that.
And sometimes the part that I drew the arrow to over here, I'd bracket it and draw an arrow to the other page. And I would have to, while I'm preaching, follow those arrows.
She also had me use notebooks because I used to come into the Today's Issues meetings with my topics on the back of my kids' schoolwork that they were just going to chunk it.
We used to tease you about that because you'd come in with your notes and I'd say, "What is that?
My
back of an ice
therapist
cream
has really
wrapper?"
helped me get through those.
But she had it in just an old fashioned 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, spiral notebook.
Spiral notebook. That's what she wrote in.
Well, she
called it old-fashioned. I guess people still use it.
She mentioned that if she had known that she was going to do this, she would have done it in nice, journals. But
she didn't intend to start out. She didn't start out intending to write the whole Bible.
Yeah.
But one book led to another, which led to another. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Story there. And so 89. Wow. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thank you for listening to AFR. Next story, Chris.
Well, when you read the Bible and perhaps write down what you read, you will learn a lot from God about his plans for the people of Israel and the nation of Israel. And Israel is a country we still hear about a lot in the news, due in part to countries like Iran not wanting Israel to exist. President Trump, since he's re-entered office, has been trying to sit down with Iran to come up with some sort of peaceful solution to this whole Iran nuclear program. Let's go back to the Obama-Biden administration. They wanted Iran to be able to have some nuclear capabilities with the promise they weren't going to do harm to Israel and U.S. interests. Obviously, a lot of people disagree with that idea. And so people are concerned that maybe Trump is going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't think that's what the president intends. But I've got some audio of newly confirmed ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, who said to Fox over the weekend there's really only one peaceful solution to this issue. Clip 13.
I hope talks can result in something where Iran completely walks away from nuclear ambitions and realizes that both President Trump and the Israelis have said you're never going to have a nuclear weapon. The sooner they understand that, the better.
Well, I don't want to see Iran have nuclear weapons. I don't know anybody who does, unless they're oriented towards terrorism or the elimination of Israel. Hopefully, Iran will come to the bargaining table. Listen, if President Trump is able to pull off all the things that he's intent on doing, ending the Russia-Ukraine war, getting Iran to agree to end its program to get nuclear weapons, the tariff, correction of the trade deficit. If he can pull all this stuff off and get rid of all the illegal immigrants, all those things that he set out to do, this will be an extraordinary and transformational presidency. And these are all good things. Again, I don't know that much about the tariff situation. I
do.
You do.
We can get to it in a minute.
I certainly don't want to see a recession. But all this other stuff, I think, is all good stuff. People ought to be praying that God will give a favor to the president. I'd like to see the war between Russia and Ukraine end, for example, all those people continuing to die. So just be praying for success for a lot of these efforts. I certainly don't want to see Iran with nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Next story.
All right, let's go with a SpaceX story here. The South Texas home of Elon Musk's SpaceX rocket company is now an official city with a galactic name, Starbase. A vote Saturday to formally organize Starbase as a city was approved by a lopsided margin among the small group of voters who live there and are mostly Musk's employees at SpaceX. With all the votes in, the tally was 212 in favor, 6 against, according to results published online by the Cameron County Elections Department. Long story short, McAllen, Texas, is going to be the home of something called Starbase, where you might see some Elon Musk SpaceX rockets take off from, similar to how you guys might have watched rockets take off back in the 60s and 70s.
I don't know. Is that a crack? How old we are?
No, I'm trying to I'm trying to
sounded like it,
relate it to something from
something
the space race.
The old people. Yeah, no, I understood what you were doing.
You remember that, Ed? Don't you?
You remember
Apollo 4?
Back in the old days when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon.
Listen, Elon Musk is the guy everyone made fun of in school.
Mm-hmm.
He's the prototypical nerd. And this is revenge of the nerds, because almost everything that guy sets out to do, he accomplishes. And what is it, Starlink? Is that what you were?
Yeah, his internet company.
But no, and what's the name of this space?
Oh, SpaceX.
No, the name of the town.
It's in the McAllen, Texas area.
Muskburg.
Cameron County, Texas, in the McAllen, Texas.
No, but you
area.
said what was the name, Chris, of the town that was created?
Oh, Starbase.
Starbase.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just telling you, that is the nerdiest thing ever. What are we going to call it? We're not going to call it Rose, Texas or something. Yeah. We're going to call it Starbase.
You know what? So Elon Musk probably go back to his high school reunion.
What have you been up to?
And play Toby Keith's "How Do You Like Me Now?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Starbase.
Right.
How do you like me now? I was the nerd.
Yes.
Now you people want to work for me.
That's right. And I not only create companies,
right,
I create towns.
Yes.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
From scratch.
I go rescue people from outer space.
Yes.
What do you do?
Exactly. People stranded for 9 months.
Yeah.
What's your daddy do?
Interestingly enough, keeping it with space for a moment, on this day in history, May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard Jr. made a 15-minute suborbital flight in the Freedom 7 spacecraft, becoming the first U.S. astronaut to travel in space.
Yeah, but it was only suborbital. And he wasn't an influencer.
Did he get out of the thing like Katy Perry and kiss the ground? I think he landed in the ocean. He
was an actual astronaut.
He was a brave man.
Sorry to put it this way, not one of these chicks that went up into space
be careful.
for 15 minutes and came down and claimed to be astronauts.
Let me ask you this.
To make you an astronaut.
If Ken Ham or somebody with like a creation ministry, if they were to come to you and say, hey, we've got the funding, we've got the vessel, would you go to space?
I'd say no. I don't want to. You mean me personally?
Either one of you.
No, I'd say no.
Oh gosh, I'm not crazy with the venture, but I'm not. I'll do. I went with my uncle. Of course, I was like 11, I think, in a a glider.
Hang glider?
Not a hang glider.
Just the kind that the plane pulls you up.
Plane pulls it, and you go up, and then the plane disconnects, and all you hear is the air.
Yeah.
Going through, huh?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. No,
I
would not do it.
I did that in 1976. Well, I think I was 13 or something.
Yeah, you didn't
like
know
that.
any better.
Well, I went. I don't think I had a choice. My dad put me behind my uncle, put me in the glider with my uncle, and said, "See you in a few minutes." And I'm like, going, "What are we doing?
Hope.
What are we doing, Daddy?" You'll find out, son.
Yeah. What are we doing? Where's the sacrifice? We're going up to the top of the mountain. Listen, my wife on a Saturday would say, "What do you say we go out to eat at such and such a place?" And I have to think, do I really want to get dressed and go out? And we go out. Nah, I'll make you a sandwich. How's that?
Yeah.
And if someone said, no, instead we want to send you into space, I'm going, nah, no, thank you.
Well, I'm looking at, we're going on family vacation in a few weeks.
Yeah.
On the Gulf, down at
that's far enough.
Destin,
Gulf
Florida.
of America.
So I was looking at parasailing, because that's what I'm saying. I'm not crazy, but I'll do something like that.
Yeah.
Parasailing in the Gulf of America?
You darn right. You shoot,
Tim.
You darn tootin'.
You know there's sharks out there.
Well, that's
yeah.
If you fell in, it would be it'd be doubly bad.
Yeah.
First of all, you could break every bone in your body, and then a shark
Right.
come along.
Now-
You're right, Ed.
now
Things could go bad.
I got to pray for you when you're on vacation.
You got to have an optimistic view of life, though. You can't just live in fear every day.
I don't.
And just stay
have
home
an
and make a
optimistic
sandwich.
view.
Oh, you don't?
And you know, you're the one who says you're not going up in a plane unless it's got 2 pilots and 2 engines.
Well, I'm
Which
just
to me
saying.
and that's
I don't
smart.
do. Yes, that's right. But that's right. You're right about that. But that's smart.
Yeah.
That's being smart right there. Don't go up in a plane because if
Right. And so you're going to go up in a parasail with no engine and no pilot.
Yeah, but you gotta research this stuff, man.
Okay.
You gotta say, okay, what are your chances of dying? You know what I'm saying?
Well, what are your chances of dying if you stay right there on the beach?
We probably need to pick this up after the show.
Well, Chris, would you go up in space?
I would probably be more inclined to actually do like the Katy Perry thing where they could just go up just above the earth, because I'm not scared of heights, but I don't like rickety heights. Like, I've been on planes, I've been on the top of the Eiffel Tower, I've been
rickety heights,
like Ferris wheels.
It's a band.
I'm not a fan of Ferris wheels. Okay, where the only thing holding you between eternity is like some chain link or whatever.
Yeah.
No, paragliding, I would not do that. But flying like straight up,
Paragliding is safe, though. And I mean, parasailing behind a boat. I mean, they do it every day, all day.
They don't release you.
Oh,
okay,
no,
okay.
no, I'm not talking. No, they don't cut you loose.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
No.
That's what I was thinking.
They reel you in.
Oh, okay. Now
you go on a boat.
Okay, that's
and
different.
you get harnessed in, and then they let you out with the parasail, and you're above the Gulf, and then they
reel you back in. Oh,
they
that's
reel you back
different.
in. No,
I thought they cut you loose.
No, this ain't no military exercise. And all right,
all right. That's
is that helpful?
That's helpful.
Okay, we'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
All God asks of you is faithfulness. Headlines in USA Today. Did you see it this morning? All the odds against us. Faithfulness is the word.
There's a place for you on the battle line. Engage in the fight for America's families. Visit afa.net and then take your position. A message from the American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. A Milwaukee judge is charged with interfering with deportation efforts hours before she issued new guidance on how state officials should not cooperate with ICE agents. Garrett Tenney in Milwaukee with more.
Under this guidance, if state employees are instructed to ask for the agent's name, their badges, why they're there, have them take a seat in the waiting area while the employee calls their agency's attorney. If they can't get a hold of the attorney, the employee is supposed to tell the ICE agents, come back another time. Notably, the state employees are also instructed not to answer any questions, not give any access to files, and not allow the agents to enter any non-public areas. It was sent out just hours after Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan helped an illegal immigrant evade ICE arrest at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. The FBI arrested Dugan a week later.
During an interview with NBC's Meet the Press that was taped at Mar-a-Lago and aired Sunday morning, President Trump was asked whether Americans and non-Americans deserve due process under the Constitution. Trump said,
A big emergency right now is that we have thousands of people that we want to take out, and we have some judges that want everybody to go to
Some
court.
of them you appointed, sir, including
That's all right.
3 on the Supreme Court.
They change. It's unbelievable how that happens, but they do change.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
Fox News legal editor Greg Jarrett says the problem, especially with the media, is a lack of understanding of the meaning of due process.
Yeah, deportations are not a criminal process under the meaning of the Bill of Rights and the Fifth Amendment guarantees of due process. That's the point that I think Trump's lawyers had made to him. Removal is based on people who are here illegally, not because they're charged or convicted of crimes.
President Trump seemed to put an end to speculation that he could seek to go beyond a second term in the White House.
President Donald Trump said on NBC's Meet the Press that even though some want him to continue in 2028,
I'm looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican.
Who might that Republican be? The president said you have to start with Vice President J.D. Vance.
I think he's a fantastic, brilliant guy. Marco is great. There's a lot of them that are great.
He named no one specific beyond Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio, adding at just over 100 days into his term, it's far too early to say who'll come next. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
An immigration reform organization is giving the Trump administration high marks when it comes to immigration and border issues for the first 100 days of his administration.
When Donald Trump reached the 100-day milestone last week, many commentators expressed their amazement at how much the president accomplished in that short window of time. The Federation for American Immigration Reform says in the first 100 days, the Trump administration has taken historic and decisive steps to strengthen border security and interior enforcement, restoring the safety of American communities and the value of American citizenship. Under the Biden administration, over 10 million illegal aliens were allowed into the country, and the Trump administration is delivering on its mandate to reverse that crisis, restore the rule of law, and secure our borders. Ira Melman is media director for FAIR.
As far as the border is concerned, it's just night and day difference. During the month of March, which is the most recent month that we have data for border apprehensions along the southern border, they encountered a grand total of 7,181 people coming across the southern border illegally. If you go back to the height of the Biden border crisis, that was a slow day, and this was an entire month.
And Melman says President Trump was able to shut down the border almost immediately.
And we are now at the point where we're starting to remove people from the country, bring the numbers down, rather than trying to prevent the numbers of people here illegally from growing as rapidly as they were over the past 4 years. So he made this a campaign issue. He made promises on this issue, and he has largely kept them.
I'm Chad Groening.
More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
In Denver, Colorado, Jamie Sanchez obeyed the Lord's call and opened the Drip Cafe to create jobs to help unhoused people get back on their feet. Of course, the LGBTQ community began persecuting him for his Christian beliefs. His inspiring story of standing boldly for God's truth in the face of great opposition is part of our Impact series, and we'll send you the DVD as our thanks for your gift to AFA. Visit afa.net/spiritual war. afa.net/spiritual war.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano, and now Steve Paisley-Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
So we were talking about parasailing.
Yeah.
Which I'm thinking about doing in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
We go on family vacation.
Even now?
Down at the beach. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing it. I've done it once before.
Yeah.
Not there, but at the Lake of the Ozarks. But so Ed, so Steve decides, Ed.
Yeah.
Steve decides, I think I'll show Tim a video clip of a parasail adventure where the rope snapped. I call it a rope. I don't know. I guess it's a rope.
Yeah, it's not a string.
Okay, but the people survived though. They just floated down to the water, didn't they, Steve?
Yeah, they did. No harm, no foul. A little bit wet.
I think that was actually a movie scene with Tom Cruise in it, because he does his own stunts.
He does his own stunts. He does. That's between kind of.
No, it wasn't. It was a real. People up
They
there.
have the GoPro cameras. Or something.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess there's one in. I wonder if parasail companies advertise that. We're 99% successful.
99%.
Huh?
Yeah. Would you jump out of a plane to go skydiving?
They had a 99% success rate.
Yeah. Would you do it?
Mm-hmm. That's a good success rate under most circumstances.
Absolutely.
99.
Go for it.
If you score 99 out of 100 on a test, you've done good.
Absolutely.
99 on 100 on a what?
Yeah, but you can't.
On a parasail adventure?
You're probably not going to die if you
Yeah.
get an F on a test.
All right. You're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Well, we have in studio with us a very special guest. Sometimes our guests aren't special. But Dr. Baruch Corman, he is the founder of Love Israel, a ministry dedicated to providing verse-by-verse teaching of the entire Bible from the original languages and Jewish context. His program airs each Saturday here on American Family Radio from noon Central Time. And we want to welcome Dr. Corman. Good morning, brother.
Good morning. It's very nice to be here, and I'm not a parasailer at all. So
I'm with you.
Now, you are visiting us here in the U.S. from your homeland.
From Israel. We live in Israel. I've lived in Israel for 25 years. We grew up in the States, but now in Israel.
Where'd you grow up here?
Grew up in Chicago, and after I got married, we moved to Florida, to Miami. We were there for a number of years. But as I said, for the last 25 years, we've been in Israel, 5 years in the Galilee, in the town called Tzfat, and now in the southern part of Israel, not far from Gaza. We're about 25 kilometers, 14, 15 miles from Gaza.
Now, why did you move from the U.S. to Israel?
Prophetically, we see in the scripture that God has promised. It's not by accident, it's not by coincidence, but God has promised as the last days approach to bring the Jewish people back to the land. And I just had a call, a strong desire, don't know why, but to go to Israel. I think it's prophetic. And so we uprooted our family, and went to Israel in 2000 and been there since.
When you say your family, how many of you were there?
Well, there's my wife that went initially begrudgingly, but she went, and our 3 children.
Begrudgingly? Whoa. How'd you handle that one? Honey, listen, can we go out to dinner tonight? There's something I need to tell you.
Well, she made a mistake of saying something. She said, I'll agree to it, but we have some debt we need to pay off, and we need 1 year of living expenses.
Right.
and all the expenses to move over there. And that was a lot of money, more money than we have experienced for several years coming in as far as income. And I was working as a congregational leader, but also I worked in financial services. And 2 days later, I got a call, and a person said, I'm not happy with who's handling my money. Would you consider? And I went over and met with him. Make a long story short, he decided to move his portfolio to our company, and the commission that I received was significantly more than that my wife's minimal requirement.
So that was a sign to you that God was blessing your.
Don't challenge God, do you?
I took that to mean he was
Right.
he was blessing. It was his will.
Yeah.
I didn't tell my wife. I waited for the commission to come in and everything. And I called the moving company. I began to get the plane reservations. And then I sat down and I
Right.
showed her our bank account, showed her the tickets, showed her everything. I said,
Amen.
we're moving on this date.
And that's 20-something years ago.
25 years ago.
I have to ask, if you're living near the Gaza border, where were you on October 7th? Were you anywhere close?
We were actually at a conference. I was in Venice. The conference was going to be in Italy.
Huh.
So we were not there. Our children were all there.
Anywhere close to where all the horrible stuff happened?
15 miles away.
Oh, my gosh.
So we woke up. We have what most Israelis have. It's called Seva Adom, which is the alerts that rockets are coming in. And my wife and I sleep differently. She's a very light sleeper, as most men are. We sleep really good.
Right.
And she was awakened with her phone just going ballistic. And soon thereafter, our daughter called us and said, we're getting rockets every few minutes. The sirens are going off and such.
How old are your children?
They're adult children. They've all been through the Israeli military. They've all served in the military. So our youngest is 28. That's who we were talking to. Our oldest is 34.
So how does it work in terms of citizenship? Your children were born over here.
Mm-hmm.
They live over there. Do they become dual citizens?
We all have dual citizenship. If you can prove, based upon rabbinical law, that you are Jewish.
Okay.
So there's a process you go through. If you are verified that you are of Jewish descent, therefore you can return to Israel under what's called the law of return, and you are given immediately citizenship, soon thereafter a passport, and you are full Israeli citizens.
Okay, so this is a question I've always wanted to ask someone, and now I have an opportunity. Okay, so with the the dispersions of the Jews under various circumstances, I guess the most recent being the war between the Jews and the Romans, so whatever, 2,000 years ago. Can Jews prove which tribe they come from?
No. All those records were lost in the destruction of the Second Temple, as you pointed out, by Titus in 70 A.D. So there's no way for that to be proven based upon what tribe you're from and such. So how do we prove ourselves?
Right.
The main document is called a ketubah, which is the wedding document. So before a rabbi, and it's really not the rabbi, but it's what's called a bet din, a rabbinical court, prepares the wedding document, they verify that both people are Jewish.
Yeah.
They do it in a variety of ways. If you have your parents' ketubah, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
That's a good proof. So you prove that you're Jewish. Now, today, there's another thing they want from people, and that is a letter from a rabbi attesting that he knows personally you to be Jewish.
Okay.
So if you have those two documents, that's pretty much what it requires to prove that you're Jewish, that you are born from a Jewish woman. The man does not determine. Now, biblically, there's a lot of evidence that it is the man that determines the Jewishness.
Yeah.
But under Jewish law today, if your mother's Jewish, you are Jewish. So it depends upon the mother.
Are any roadblocks thrown up if you're a Christian?
Basically, if you are a Christian and Jewish, you are not allowed that right of return. Therefore, you need to make sure that things are not on the internet and such.
Right.
Now, I had a lot of things on the internet.
Right.
Where I was unique is that, contrary to most Jewish people who are believers, our family was very involved in the Jewish community. We had the synagogue that we still went to even as believers, where it was the synagogue that hosted a large event, which a large portion of the Jewish community came to. I was the MC of that. So I knew many of the leaders. I knew what's called the shliach, which is the person for the Israeli government that officiates whether you get citizenship or not. He knew me personally,
Right.
or I knew him personally,
Right.
and therefore he made it happen very easily. They just assumed that I wasn't a believer, and therefore they didn't do any of the background or anything that they staunchly do today.
Wow.
We're talking to Dr. Baruch Corman, founder of Love Israel. He's heard each Saturday afternoon on American Family Radio from noon to 1 o'clock Central Time here on AFR with the program Lost in Translation. So what do you do? What do you do there? I mean, you do the radio program, but what's the mission? What's your purpose for your ministry?
Our whole ministry is about one thing, and that is sharing biblical truth. So we do studies of Scripture.
Okay.
Now, in Israel, we do those scriptures, obviously, or those teachings in Hebrew, because our emphasis is not in having an international church there. Our emphasis is reaching Hebrew-speaking Israelis with the truth of God's Word. So we do that through seminars. We just completed the Passover season, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a very busy time for us because we have seminars, we have different events, we have different groups, home groups that meet in different places. And so we use these festivals in order to share biblical truth.
What percentage of our Israelis are what you call secular versus religious?
Well, you have really two groups in Israel, as you pointed out, secular, and then the other group is Orthodox. And when you look at the ultra-Orthodox community, those with black suits and the beards and the pale, the side curls and the black hats, you're talking probably around 20%, but it's growing, and it's growing rapidly. Based upon the mitzvah, peru urvu, which means be fruitful and multiply. So that's a very important commandment for that community. But then you also have probably about 40% additional to get us up to 60 of what's called Dati Lumi, not Haredi, but Dati Lumi, which is our more modern Orthodox. They don't dress in that attire that
like Reformed Jews in this country?
Well, but there's basically no Reformed Jews in Israel. There's a small group of pockets, mostly Americans that have come over, but it's basically non-existent.
Okay.
So you have Dati Lumi, which are Orthodox. They follow Jewish law, biblical law, with a rabbinical perspective, and you have the Haredi community. That's about 60%. So to answer your question, Tim, about 40% of Israel's population is secular.
But that's about all of Tel Aviv, right?
Oddly enough, Tel Aviv is changing rapidly. My oldest daughter and son lives in Tel Aviv, in southern Tel Aviv, in a neighborhood called Shapira. And she's seen growing number of Haredi Jews moving into this community. The largest Frum ultra-Orthodox community is just real close to Tel Aviv. It's called B'nai Barak. And there's several 100,000 in that. So Tel Aviv has that reputation, but Tel Aviv's very liberal because of the secularism.
Yeah.
But there's still a growing and vibrant Jewish Orthodox communities, even in Tel Aviv.
That's very interesting. I always thought that Israel was far more secular than that. You're saying 60% believe in God and respond by living a Orthodox Jewish
Well,
life.
Let me just clarify something. We lived in one of those ultra-Orthodox community, and we saw people who were extremely committed to Judaism. But in getting to know them and sharing things with them, they would say confidentially, I'm not even sure I believe in God.
Huh.
What
Interesting.
was important to them was this culture, it's great for family life.
Yeah.
This was very important to them. They were very committed to Orthodox life. They enjoyed the community, the benefits of the community, the lifestyle, but not necessarily all of them believe in God, or that's the motivation.
Very interesting.
Steve,
It's fascinating.
do you have any further?
I am fascinated by it. In fact, I've heard your program, and I love listening to it. It's just fascinating, the delving into the Hebrew language and what we miss as just if just a reader of English Bible. I miss so much.
Well, lost in translation.
Lost in
that's
yeah,
the name of
that's-
your program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So thank you
that's
for
right.
that.
I appreciate those
Yeah.
kind words.
All right. Well, Dr. Baruch Corman has been our guest, and we thank you for your ministry and appreciate you stopping by and visiting with us while you're in town here in studio.
Well, American Family Radio has been a great blessing to us. We have seen our audience increase, our donor base increase, and it's directly related to when we began on your network. So we're very thankful for that opportunity and privilege to be part of your family.
Thank you, Dr. Corman, Dr. Baruch Corman. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Steve, what's your what story you have? Thank you.
I just wanted to, let's start here. Yesterday was May the 4th, the Star Wars Day, right? May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
Well, you know what that makes today, right?
May the 5th.
May the 5th. Our president has a message on this May the 5th for us, Cut 15.
My fellow Americans, es tu presidente favorito, and I wanted to wish you a very happy Cinco de Porto. Cinco de Porto is a tremendous day to all of the illegals, gang members, drug traffickers, human smugglers, and all around bad hombres. Te vamos a sacar de nuestro país, or as I call it, we're getting you out of our country. MS-13, we're getting you out. Tren de Aragua, we're going to get you out, or we're going to put you in Alcatraz. We'll call you Tren de Alcatraz, because we want to reopen Alcatraz. All my beautiful people, they said to me, sir, they said, senor, why do you want to reopen Alcatraz so badly? I said, mi hermano, I got to tell you, you look at it, it's called The Rock. It's named after me. It needs to start acting like it. We are going to rebuild it so beautifully and so strongly and so greatly. We will make Alcatraz great again.
Okay, Steve, you better hurry up. And
That wasn't really
That
Trump.
is- that
but
is-
that is funny.
Yeah.
Cinco de Porto.
Cinco de Porto.
Because today's Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo, right. That was a gentleman named Sean Farash, who I love this guy. He's
We can tell.
very much a Trump supporter and apologist. Got a good head on his shoulders, and he does a great Trump. So every so often I like to bring him in and hear what our president, almost president, is saying. I mean, he didn't say anything that President Trump really wouldn't say, right?
It probably pieced together
Right.
things he has said. By the way, Cinco de Mayo, it's not like their Independence Day. It's a victory over some army, wasn't it? Cinco de Mayo, second victory.
I think, yeah.
Anyway,
it is not their Independence Day.
Right.
I'm not sure what.
So for all our Spanish-speaking listeners or Hispanic individuals, happy Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
oh, that's today.
Today.
You should be getting a special Mexican food. Yeah, right? Special prices on, huh? No?
Yeah, I don't know. They may have
I
a
don't
Cinco
think
de
we don't
Mayo
do that.
special. They might. Go ask.
I'll
we have
ask.
a Mexican restaurant right on the corner up here.
Oh, we have 27 right around
So we're close.
Anyway, I like that guy. That
Yeah,
guy's funny.
Like you said, they parachute Dollar Generals up everywhere, but if you got an empty building for more than 2 months, they're going to put a Mexican restaurant
Yes.
in there. It's going to happen.
And it'll do good business.
All right, so Steve,
Yes, sir.
are we going to take over Greenland?
Well, it depends on who you talk to. This is what the president has been saying, and a lot of people are a little bit nervous. Some of the headlines I saw said Donald Trump doesn't rule out invading Greenland amid World War III fears. I'm not sure that it's quite to that level, but I will tell you, I'm looking for what he did say on this. Let's listen to the president. This is what he said.
Let me just say this. This is really the president.
Yes.
This is not the guy who impersonates him.
No, this is really the president, and this is what he said when asked about Greenland Cut 12.
They think we are going to protect them, and really we are. But the truth is, they don't carry their full share, and it's unfair to the United States and our taxpayers.
But you are not ruling out military force to take Greenland.
I don't rule it out. I don't say I'm going to do it, but I don't rule out anything. No, not there. We need that. We need Greenland very badly. Greenland is a very small amount of people, which we'll take care of and we'll cherish them and all of that. But we need that for international security.
There's a lot of nervous fishermen in Greenland right now, Ed.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Look, I love President Trump, and I mentioned in the first hour he is knocking it out of the ballpark in several areas. But there is no way we're going to war. We're not taking Greenland. And the fact that he wouldn't rule it out, listen, that's you don't say that, okay? If I was in a conversation with my wife and she said, do you rule out ever having an affair and being unfaithful to me? I don't say, well, I'm not going to do it, but I don't rule it out, okay? You just don't say that because it implies that there is a certain set of circumstances where you would be unfaithful. And for the president to say, I don't rule out taking Greenland by force, he would split the Republican Party right down the middle, probably would get impeached, and MAGA would disappear as a political force. I don't think he should be even implying that. He should say, of course not. That's the right answer. You say, of course not. But if Greenland would like to become a part of the United States, we would cherish the people of Greenland and protect it. That, to me, is the right way of saying it.
The president has said this same line about just about anything he's been asked for with regard to military. Are you going to bomb Iran? Well, I'd be stupid if I told you if I was or not. I know.
That, to me, that's different.
But anytime you talk to him about strategy and a military context, he has always said, and I'm not going to rule anything out. I'm not going to tip my hand. I don't think anybody, I don't think anybody as of last term would think he'd be anywhere close to doing that. It's very confusing. I think it's very
why don't you just say no, not with Greenland?
I agree.
Greenland's not the same as the situation with Iran. I wish I could do a really good Donald Trump voice and just say, of course, we're not going to invade Greenland. That's not what America does. The American flag symbolizes freedom. It's not going to symbolize taking your land and your stuff.
Kind of along the same lines. Do you know that who's coming to the White House this week? Mark Carney, the governor of the 51st state of America. He's going to be meeting with Donald
Prime
Trump
Minister
this week.
Carney.
That's right.
Is he?
He will be at the White House this week.
Does he come as friend or foe?
Well, I don't know. We haven't ruled out a military takeover of Canada either.
Anyway,
folks,
I think
my mind.
I think the Canadian Prime Minister, what's his name?
Mark
Carney.
I think he's going to call Zelensky to see how things should go at the White House.
Maybe.
How do I approach?
How do you think I should act while I'm there?
Okay. All right. Thank you for listening to the program today, everybody. We appreciate it and hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.
And my father, your great